Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
Star Trek Podcast.
Q, I ask you once more, and for the last time, where is the Stargazer and her crew?
I intervened. You see, I thought to myself, I really must see Jean Luc. So I simply sought out the nearest explosion.
What do you want, Q?
Oh, I could tell you, but you're far too clever to listen. That said, we're never too old to be students of our own behaviors, Jean Luc.
I have had enough of your stupid patronizing.
And I've had enough of your obstinance, your stubbornness, your insistence on changing in all ways but the one that matters. This is not a lesson. It's a penance.
Do you remember the episode where Mr. Wizard had the robot? There's like one where he had the robot.
I think I vaguely do.
There was some gray robot,
Yes.
some Star Trek looking robot. There was the other episode of Mr. Wizard where he shows how strong an egg is by putting it between two barbell weights.
Yeah.
You remember that one?
I remember that one. I remember when they like made some like ball of sugar like explode or something.
Well,
Do you remember when he used a trash bag to make a balloon by heating up the air in the lawn in the sun?
Yeah.
I thought I remembered one where he had a thing where he had an egg and he would try to crush the egg.
Yeah,
He got one of
you
those-
couldn't do
tried
it.
to get
That's
one
the
of those
same
kids
episode.
to
You couldn't do
It's
it.
the same
And I
episode
re-
is what I'm talking about, where he uses the barbell weights. Blue, it was a blue barbell weight.
Blue barbell
It was a
weight.
blue barbell weight.
Blue. And he puts an egg on one barbell weight and then puts another one on top.
So-
and shows
I saw
how
that one where
strong
it was
that
like
is.
you can't fold a piece of paper 8 times.
Yeah, I
Oh,
saw
fuck
that one.
yeah, that one
When-
was awesome.
When he
Fucking-
was-
that was the shit.
When he was squeezing the egg and couldn't break it, I wanted to show my mom, and you can probably guess where this went.
He popped an egg. I think I did exactly the
It's
same
like, Mom,
thing.
check it out. I can't break it.
What that was Mr. Wizard trolling all of it.
Yeah, he was. I think
All
there's
right.
you're supposed to grab it a certain way or something.
But we don't want to be.
Isn't that the truth?
We don't want people to think that we're trolling them because they have in fact tuned in to the It's Got Star Trek
It's
podcast.
got it.
So break an egg over your head because it won't break.
This is episode 121 of the It's Got Star Trek podcast, being produced essentially simultaneously with episode 120, in which we discussed Star Trek Discovery. Yes, that's right. We have 2 episodes coming at you this week, just like we did last week, and just like we will the following week, the week coming forward, the next week in the fucking order.
It's good, dude. Globus.
So all that is to
He
say,
sounds
we're
like
trying to get the
this.
content to
Don't
you.
sound like that.
My
Get
name
the
is
content
Dan
delivered to you.
Globus.
This episode's about Star
Don't
Trek
sound
Picard,
like that.
Season 2, Episode 2, entitled Penance. If you want to learn about
not a lesson, it's penance.
our subjective viewpoints on Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 12,
That's a different fucking
look,
episode.
just go in your feed, look back one episode to episode 120, because that's where we have just now talked
This
about that.
this episode is called Penance, and in parentheses,
Minutes ago.
it says Penance, and in parentheses it says the Pirates of.
Okay. That's like, you know how there's slant rhymes? That's like a slant joke. Because, it's Pirates of Penzance.
Yeah.
And so penance is not quite there.
Plus, I butchered all the words up to try to get to that goal.
No, I thought
It was a long walk.
No, I think you did a good job.
It was like I did a silly walk to that punchline.
Okay. See, you're making a reference
Walk
to
the
Monty
plank.
Python there.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I'm not sure what I think about that one. I was on
I'm
board.
just saying, like
I was on board up to that
but
point.
when I said penance, also known as penance, and then in parentheses the Pirates of, like that was such a stretch of a joke.
Yes, I'm agreeing with that.
We should
Okay,
move
yes.
on.
So, okay, Star Trek Picard. We only have a limited amount of time here because
no,
we
we're
are
doing this again.
producing 2 podcasts. Yes.
We're doing this again.
No, we're doing great. We're doing great. We can calm things down and we can just proceed in an orderly fashion, describing what we thought of what is being hailed as one of the best episodes of Star Trek in 20 years.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people really like this episode.
This
That was cool.
There's,
I really like this episode.
I did too, and it's
Some weird stuff.
I can't say if it's just because it's at the beginning, but there's a
and
lot.
there's recency bias and all that. Anyway.
But there's
beginning bias and recency bias.
I was getting at the point that I was getting at a
Like
slightly different point.
yesterday bias.
I was trying to get a slightly different point, which is there feels like there's more to unpack here than in Discovery.
Yes.
But then again, it also depends on how the rest of the season goes, because maybe as long as they keep it up. But like they're making more of a point right off the bat. They seem to be making an interesting point, you know.
They're having
And it's not
fun.
necessarily a new point. It's just delivered pretty well, I thought.
I'm yeah. I mean,
This is like a holodeck episode, like going nuts.
it is a holodeck episode.
Yeah, it is. It is like
mad.
they get to go on a separate adventure.
Okay, first I want to briefly comment. There's a mea culpa that I have to make because last episode
That's Latin.
I referenced Picard looking at a plaque on a building, a plaque on a building.
Oh, I know what you're
just
saying.
prior to going to Guinan's bar, either the bar was named 10 or the address of the bar is 10 or both. So I presume both. So we saw the big 10.
10 minus 1 is 9. 7 of 9.
And what was the deal? It was like a historic.
There was like a
district of-
historic district, and I'm stupid because I kept saying it was like, yeah, it said the Howard Avenue Historic District, and I wasn't making a big deal about it or nothing. I was just like, oh, that's interesting, the Howard Avenue Historic District, and I was positing that it's going to be a sanctuary district or something in the future or something. That's why the plaque was there. Some listeners have pointed out to me, politely but vigorously pointed out to me, that in fact it was Forward Avenue, the Forward Avenue district. 10 Forward, 10 Forward Avenue, 10. It's a joke.
It's a joke.
And it's a damn good one.
That's pretty good.
Damn good.
See, they trusted their audience with that joke.
They did.
Guinan.
And you failed.
I failed, but with a qualification.
None of us are
A
perfect.
minor
Howard.
qualification.
Who is this Howard?
I noticed that while scooting through the episode looking for screen grabs, and I noticed that plaque, and I looked at it. And if you look at it, and I challenge you in the audience to look at it,
Willie,
the font,
I'm in this cave
the
far away.
font that they have chosen, is. It's a serify font, and
Is
it's
it
kind of
Calibri?
the F going into the F going into the O kind of looks like an H. Kind of. Yeah.
So you're
I
trying
think
to make
it's-
excuses.
I'm not making an excuse. I'm positing that it's a mistake.
I'm positing. I'm not.
It's a mistake that I made and that I'm owning up to, but an innocent one.
innocent.
I don't think it was out of a high degree of incompetence, perhaps a little bit of intellectual laziness on my part. Things have been busy.
No one is lazy in this new world of Starfleet and the Confederation.
You don't have.
Nobody's innocent.
You don't get a chance to be lazy. It seems.
Nobody's innocent.
All right, so let's get into the episode. Let's get past all this brouhaha and whatnot, and get into this episode. I did really like it, the whole episode through, and I was excited to watch it through a second time and enjoyed it thoroughly both times through. What say you, Dan?
When I said all vigorously, nobody's lazy, using the word vigorous again, nobody's lazy in the new Confederation, I meant to say nobody's innocent in the new Confederation.
But then you said lazy.
I said lazy instead.
because I said lazy.
Yeah, and it was maybe
I thought you were riffing off of my comment.
I was riffing off your comment because
So that's okay.
So because I was saying nobody's innocent, and because you might say, well, some people are against it, some people are for it. But if you allow this regime to take over the galaxy, who's innocent? If you stood by and did nothing, are you really innocent?
I would argue no.
You're not innocent.
I think
You're human.
inaction.
But how much?
inaction-
How much credit can we give someone though, and be like, it's kind of unreasonable to expect you to be-
5.
5. We give them 5s.
5.
Okay.
Whatever unit is appropriate.
Anyway, so
It's prime. It's not too big, not too small. It's a good number.
You can figure out a lot of stuff with 5.
Yeah.
But and I guess it was just if you're lazy and you sit by side and you let bad things. I don't know what the point is. Actually. This whole mob mentality situation, with the angry mob just jumping to the end. Speaking of lazy, it seems to kind of say like, while people, the whole feeling I kind of got was people want to do good, right? But people also want to be lazy. And it's like lazy to cheer for like executions and things like that. And so if you give someone an excuse to not even just give them an excuse to be lazy, if you tell someone you're doing good things by being lazy.
You're doing good things by killing people in front of a crowd.
Right. And just
exterminating whole planets.
Engaging in these impulses that may not be healthy at that point in time.
It's a good thing. You're saving the world.
Yeah.
You're saving the galaxy.
Yeah. And there's a whole thing about, fear and that kind of thing.
It's going to be very interesting to see where this story goes because they've been transported into this fascist nightmare version of their contemporaneous time. It's very clear at this stage that they're going to time travel back to a few years in our future, a couple years in our future. So there will be opportunities for points of comparison, no doubt. I don't know how much time, though, we're going to spend in the past. I don't know how much time we're going to spend in the fascist future, in the other future.
Fascist future.
I'm very excited. No idea exactly where it's going to go. There's a lot of ideas, a lot of directions it could go, a lot of breadcrumbs they've put down. So that was really exciting to see. And it's just, everyone seems like they're having a real fucking good time. Mm-hmm. All the actors, the production folks, again, we've got, Denise and Michael Okuda have returned from back in the old day. So the looks are cool. The actors are having fun. It's just, I can understand the excitement that this episode is generating for people.
Well, there was, even silly things that I thought were fun in a neat way. Like there was Patton Oswalt, Spot 73.
Spot 73 was
like it's funny. Girardi's getting more and more of that kind of relatable, sort of funny character.
I really like
over time, and it's kind of. She's moved a lot since
Allison Pill is her timing is so good.
It was really good in this episode.
The awkwardness that she pulls off, it's hard to do that.
But she's like talking when she's getting transported away. Like,
yeah, and then she all comes up with that.
How do you like that shit?
She started talking about that excuse for why why she called her Seven, and then talking about some kind of like sounds of Romulan something or other, and she went off on that. That was pretty well delivered. But the Spot 73, it could have been cheesy, but it wasn't. I thought it was fun, like in a way that
fantastically fun.
Yeah, and that's something I really appreciate is just have some fun.
And it's also funny that Patton Oswalt has inserted himself into yet another major sci-fi fantasy franchise. Good for him, by the way.
Yeah, I like this when he pops up from place to place. They inserted it the way they did it. You were talking about tonally how the dots were working weird in Discovery.
Yes, and the previous episode 120, in which we discussed Discovery's species tendency. If you want to hear about Discovery, switch over to that episode.
But if you already heard it, don't listen to this one.
Don't listen.
Kidding.
By the way, just don't listen.
By the way. So
who cares?
By the way, something. What do you care?
It worked more. I can't exactly put my finger on why because I'm not that smart enough in that area.
I can't quite put my finger on it.
But for whatever reason, it worked more tonally in this situation because it wasn't just like a cute thing. It was a funny. It was
an irascible cat. Because an irascible artificial cat
in this situation where that's pretty dire, but somehow it was presented in a way that was humorous and light. And I wish I could explain better what I.
No, I get what you're saying because Girardi's character interacting with it is really what makes the magic work. Both Allison Pill and Patton Oswalt do such a good job here, where she's having this realization. She's like, I guess I'm just all fucking alone in every fucking universe. This fucking sucks, and that she's even better at programming artificial pets.
But she's watching over the prisoners that are like the last remnants of all the conquered species.
Yeah. No, it was good. She's
whatever they got
they've got them all in stasis there. That's why the Borg Queen is with Girardi.
Who else? Who else they got in there?
She probably
they got a Klingon.
I didn't put that together at all.
She's just hanging out in the basement.
I just thought she was a scientist doing scientist stuff.
I think she's doing torture-y science stuff.
Okay,
right? So I guess we should talk about how
I mean, I knew she had the Borg Queen in there, but
first up is
they showed it to us.
At the beginning of the episode,
they showed it.
We're already in this new horrific fascist universe, but we first get to have this nice little interaction between Q and Picard as Picard's all confused as to what's going on.
What's up with Q?
It's classic Picard irritation with by Q dialogue. That it's just it brought up all the TNG stuff.
they got right back into that same mode. Yet with the slight differences in that Picard is less patient and more irascible in his old
bullshit.
age. And he's like, bullshit. Q, something's going on with Q, right? But he's still Q. He's that rascally,
He's totally Q.
and he's slightly sinister Q, but with something like the John Delancey's, like just the looks from his eyes darting back and forth a couple times. You're like, oh, something's a little off here.
Something is off, and I don't know if this is related or if they've just had more fun with his character. But the opening scene, he was being even more cryptic and full of riddles. Riddalic. Was Riddalic a word?
Riddalic, yes, it's Riddalic. He was being very Riddalic.
He was just saying he was talking about through a mirror darkly, and he's like blah blah blah, and you're the son of your own
He's like,
behavior.
you're being very yesterday's Enterprise.
Yeah.
Which is some like crazy.
He had all kinds of
bullshit.
lines.
But yeah, his whole
crazy lines.
Yeah, he
And
gives
through a mirror darkly. Both references the Enterprise episode in a mirror darkly, but the through a mirror darkly and in a mirror darkly are translations of a phrase from the first book of Corinthians in the Bible.
So he's full of, like, he just gives a string of these sort of lines that they're all connected, but it's just like, it's like an assault in a good way. I thought it was fun. And then Picard ends up being...
It's a salt, it's a pepper.
And then Picard ends up getting really pissed off, and then Picard calls Q out, and then Picard gets pissed off again, and Q is just finally just saying, like, shut the fuck up and listen to me. And
fucking smacks him across the face.
Yeah, which was
one of the things that was a little off. And
because he got so flustered. Q doesn't usually get like flustered like that,
and it's very difficult to speculate what exactly is going on with Q. Is it that this thing that's happening to Picard is Q doing it? Is Q doing it to help Picard or the galaxy in general? But probably he doesn't care about the galaxy. I think Q mostly cares about Picard. Is Q having a problem himself and he just needs to see Picard do well or something? I don't know, but there's a lot of different directions they can go, and I don't know exactly which direction they go.
And it's also tough because you have to be able to trust the writers in a certain kind of way. Not to say that the writers have to write to cater to you, but be like, noticing something like Q acting irrationally and being like, does that mean that there's something wrong with Q, or did the writers kind of misrepresent Q? And I don't think the writer... I don't
think so at all.
I don't think so. It'll tell more as it goes along, but that's one of the things that's got to be tricky. Is like, are they trying to say something, or do they just like forget how the character is?
This feels confident. These past two episodes feel more confident than the previous season. And I'm a fan of the previous season, but there are a lot of criticisms for it. I have plenty of my own criticisms, but this season seems much more self-assured. We've already been introduced to these characters. They've been put into new positions at the beginning of the season. And now we're seeing that shaken up again, but from a different context. And we're learning things, right? We learned a little bit about Picard last episode in him thinking back to his mother and his youth. Here we have Q reference something, imply that Picard feels bad about something, that he feels really guilty about something in his past. Do you have any thoughts about what that could be from what we know so far?
So there one thing they didn't mention is Picard's childhood trauma, I guess. They didn't. I just thought of that because I realized, they didn't mention that at all. But I was thinking it was kind of...
What do you mean in this episode?
In this episode, when they talked about his child, they didn't really reference...
They didn't call it out.
But on top of that, I thought, because I didn't really think of that. What I was thinking about how he was... scared of getting into a close relationship with Laris, and it's sort of like this idea of fear is dangerous. It can cause problems, but it can also be a dangerous thing, right? So Picard, and it shows that Picard has this fear of letting people in. It's like he's putting up these walls and trying to prevent people from getting in.
Like Guinan said last episode, he was like, "You think I'm a fearful guy?" And she's like, "No, you've been brave in your way, but not in the heartstring land area."
Right, and so if you have this evil general, or fucked up General Picard,
General Sisko,
oh yes, that's right,
General Miles O'Brien. We'll talk about that too.
So what he's doing, this new world is doing, this alternate world is doing, is basically sort of on the same lines of acting out of fear. Just this idea that you want to destroy other countries because you feel insecure by your other countries,
other planets,
other planets,
other galactic empires,
because you fear what they might be able to do to you, and there's an insecurity in oneself about that, but you don't want to have that insecurity show to other people, so you overcompensate by simply smashing the planet before they have anything to do to you. It's like a confident person doesn't go around like fucking everything up. A confident person knows that they can handle a situation if it comes up, but they don't have to preemptively strike.
Bullies are the weakest minded, most insecure people of all.
Right. And so this is that's a certain kind of fear there where it's, and just like now we know from that Laris, contextually speaking, the Borg, all that stuff, like Laris has shown that she's more trustworthy than these other things, but it is still this similar idea of like shutting something out and shutting it down. Like what would happen if Laris kept pushing and didn't back off?
That's why I'm getting at this whole thing about this. In this episode, we're introduced to this idea of Picard feeling he has to atone for something. Mm-hmm. Previous episodes set up the idea that he has pre-existing. We knew about this issue where he doesn't let people get too close to him. Certainly not in a romantic sense. He has really deeply held relationships with all manner of people, but rarely does he risk himself in the manner of love. Right.
Right. So, she was saying he's going to the stars to run away. Basically.
So okay, they set that up last episode. This episode, Q starts off right away saying like, "You've got to atone for something. You might not admit it, but you and I both know what it is." Mm-hmm. And that's the thing I'm real curious about, because there's a few different things it could be. Probably, maybe, if they're following the pattern I think they are with these references to his mother and his father having, if his father being an abusive person. And we've already seen that in past episodes of TNG. Was it Tapestry? He sees his dad and his dad's a total fucking piece of shit. Mm-hmm. So we know his dad's a piece of shit. His mom in the last episode, so there was this implication that he was abusive. Maybe they're following some either direct or an analogous version of him not being able to protect his mother. And that causing some sort of psychological schism in not being able to protect the people he loves, truly loves, that sort of thing.
Well, then that would sort of feed into why he has fear of Laris, I guess, too.
That would make sense. I think a more fucked up potential, I don't think they're going to do this, but I think it'd be super interesting, is if it turned out, how Picard on the Stargazer was the one who ordered Jack Crusher, Wesley Crusher's father, Beverly Crusher's husband, to his death. Oh. He ordered him on a mission that resulted in his death, and he always felt guilty about that. They've referenced that guilt before. It might be kind of fucked up, but I think it'd be interesting if his guilt is that maybe he wanted Jack Crusher to die. Not that he arranged to kill him or anything, right? But maybe he wasn't too sad when Jack Crusher died, and then that made him realize, oh fuck, I can't do that. That's fucked up. Maybe he's Wesley's dad.
Because he was, it's because he was lusting after
Maybe
Beverly.
He's Wesley's dad.
I've suggested before that I think it's possible they had an affair before Jack Crusher died. There might even be some evidence for that. And then Jack Crusher being ordered to his death by the person who slept with his wife. It's a very non-Jean Luc in some ways scenario, but not completely outside of the context of the old J-Man.
Now yours,
JL.
What you said would make more sense for motivation, in terms of motivation, but I was thinking one of the things that popped in my mind, and I know this isn't it because that's such a stupid idea, but like if that episode keeps going back to the episode where they want to genocide the Borg,
yes,
with the computer virus,
yes.
Well, what if they had genocided the Borg, and it would have led down this path of just like the slippery slope down to like destroying things that you fear, and just like not caring about other people as long as you feel safe, you don't care what kind of pain on that whole deal and insecurity, and this idea that in order to conquest, well, that goes into something else, but anyways. I was going to say, like,
conquest.
I was just reminded about the planet, how the planet was all fucked up. And that's kind of like the idea of conquest. You have to like strip mine your shit, and you have to, it's not.
You sound like you're describing a video game called Conquest.
Conquest.
Like an Atari video game.
That's the deal with Conquest.
First you got to strip mine, and then you got to take over the villages.
It's basically this conquest based on fear.
Can we play this conquest?
This conquest based on fear is not sustainable, because in order to do it, you don't live in balance with the
state. You have to mollify the entire population, including your own population.
Yeah, and you have to like destroy everything in order to get shit faster than you were supposed to. Anyway,
well, we'll learn more about what this atonement thing is.
So it would just have been funny if it was that, but it's probably not that. But Q did specifically say it's not a lesson, it's a penance. That's the line he did. And then Picard mentioned that he said later something to the effect of like Q usually does this to test people.
Yes.
So Picard
or
thinks
you have to meet some criteria basically before you finish the video game level.
So what is there a different? Yeah, right. Before you get to the next level,
again,
and figure
it comes
and
back
you figure
to
out the hydrocarbon puzzle.
This is I suspect a hugely important plot point. Even though it was only briefly mentioned, is this atonement issue? Is that Picard feels that he has something he needs to atone for?
Is that the same as a test?
No, atone is you have to make right.
Right. So Picard was saying it was a test, possibly.
Oh, a test. I thought you meant to attest.
Oh no,
to.
no test. Sorry, test.
No, I just misconstrued what you were saying. My apologies.
Do you think the words are
many apologies?
Do you think penance and test are interchangeable?
Penn and Teller? They're great. I've met them twice. Yes.
Do you think
Teller talks, by the way?
Do you think penance?
It's all a ruse.
That's why he's called Teller.
Do you think when Q says it's penance and Picard thinks that Q's into testing people, do you think that's the same thing? Are they coming from the same place?
If you think of the definition of penance, it often has a negative connotation because people associate it with a punishment. But what penance really means is a means to make right? It is a form of punishment in a sense, but it's a pathway through which you can get to the other side of things and then make your way to heaven, whatever that might be for you.
Yeah,
so again,
atonement
is going to be the key, and we don't know what that is, right? We don't know what that is. And to me, Picard would have to be something pretty fucking serious for Picard to be for this to affect him his entire lifetime. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. There's so many other things I think Picard could intellectually get over, whether it's his dealing with the Borg,
becoming a Borg.
Yeah, his torture at the hands of David Warner, the Cardassian, any of that stuff, right?
You're saying he should intellectually get over it?
All that
I'm saying
refugee
we've
stuff.
seen evidence that he's been able to get over so much stuff that whatever it is that he feels guilty about that he can't get over. Is serious.
Yeah, because he did as a Borg, he did kill a bunch of people.
I don't know that it's as serious as purposely murdering Jack
wife.
Crusher. It may be that he couldn't help his mother or whatever. It could. These are just guesses.
Well, maybe he feels guilty about being the Borg and killing people.
But if you want to get back to the test idea, I think a test is when we find out what it is. Will we buy into the fact that it's sufficient enough to cause this trouble for Picard?
And Q, another key word is Q also mentions that says the trial never ends. So it's like test, trial, penance.
That's what he said at the end of All Good Things. Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break.
No.
Yes, when we get back. Don't worry, Dan. Don't worry. We got plenty of time to talk about more stuff when we get back.
They're all going to laugh at you.
All right, we'll be right back. All right, we have returned. We have returned from non-podcast land to podcast land.
The podcast boy.
Digital airwaves.
You see, I thought to myself, I really must see Jean Luc.
I like that as well.
That was a good line. I thought to myself, I says to myself.
It says to Mabel.
It says to Mabel, I says.
John Delancey's great. Oh, by the way, some people speculated that Picard was going to have an organic body. And they were even going so far as to say, as Patrick Stewart did a brilliant job, like acting more frail and whatever when he was waking up. But it would seem, Q stated outright, he said, you have a synthetic body. And I'm not entirely sure what to make of it there. It was in Picard's skull room.
Yeah.
We were getting to see all the cool skulls.
Frankie's
have lots of famous skulls.
Frankie actually have like some bone in their ears.
Ear bones.
Yeah, who was that? Was it just Quark? Did it just
No, there was a Grand Nagus Zek. There was a Grand Nagus staff. So probably Zek. Could be. You could argue it would be Rom because around this time it would be Rom, but I don't know.
It's General Martok, Director Sarek, Gul Dukat.
Yeah, and Gul Dukat. And he's like Gul Dukat. He's the reason why you have a synthetic body. I don't know why that would be. I don't know why Gul Dukat.
Why is that? How does that follow?
I guess it's not. It doesn't matter. It just popped out at me.
Some fucked up shit happened.
Why does Gul Dukat help? Maybe Gul Dukat like poked him with a Cardassian
body of a madman in the world of a madman.
Madman.
You hear him say how John Delancey said madman?
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, so I guess I don't think that's a loose end.
I think something's wrong with Q.
I don't
think madman.
I know that's the first clue. I don't think they're gonna. So they probably won't close the loop on that Gul Dukat synthetic body thing. They'll probably just leave us hanging with that one.
That's a dangler.
That's a dangling participle.
Well, there's a lot of dangly things here. We've got the we previously mentioned. Why are you laughing at the concept of dangly things? What's so funny about things just
I don't know, man. It's
loosely dangling?
Dangling is pretty funny to think about.
Why? Because there's an L in there? Because it's got the LG dangling?
Because you think of people are all dangly all the time.
Some people are gangly.
Some parts of some people are dangly.
Yeah, isn't that weird? Isn't that funny?
I'm playing dumb, but I'm aware of where the humor is being derived from.
Yeah.
Don't worry, dangly.
Don't worry.
Yeah, but they mentioned, of course, General Sisko, which got so many people excited.
Yeah.
There was a sharp-eyed fella. Well, maybe not fella. I shouldn't assume that. There's a sharp-eyed Reddit user named USS Burrito Truck who regularly posts.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, on Reddit, on the main Star Trek subreddit, that USS Burrito Truck regularly posts a breakdown of quote unquote canon connections, so Easter eggs and references and stuff from all the new episodes of Star Trek, and they do a really good job of it. But they noted, they and other users, kind of crowdsourcing style, noticed some other references, like on screens and stuff, like when in Seven's office and a couple other places. So General Miles O'Brien is listed as the field officer handling like the Dominion War, and Tasha Yar is a field officer who's dealing with the Andorian Rebellion.
Tasha Yar.
And there's another thing that notes that Tuvok is the leader of the Vulcans in their conflict with the Confederation.
Well, I bet he is.
Yeah, so that was cool. And then, of course, the whole Yesterday's Enterprise and Through a Mirror Darkly reference from Q. You could call it fan service, and it definitely is, but it works. It's world building.
Where did they mention Tuvok was?
It was on one of the screens. These are the things you have to wait for the folks who are sharp-eyed and have their eyeglasses prescriptions up to date. They don't misread Forward Avenue as Howard Avenue. I mean, I don't have the skills necessary for this type of work.
Speaking of screens, I think we brought this up before, but that sort of hollow display that gets brought up, especially in the Stargazer, that Rios is the dude.
In the La Serena.
A lot.
In this episode, he's on the La Serena. He's got all that like super hollow stuff.
But yes, the hollow menu, either they suddenly jumped in technology in the span of a decade from last Star Trek to this Star Trek, or they just made a bunch of advancements and
it's been a few decades.
And then all advancements stopped from here until 900 plus years from now because they have the same interface in the future, don't they?
No, they're a little different.
They're a little different. They got that one's red.
They got
purple.
programmable matter.
The programmable matter.
The programmable matter is
which is
true.
all like undulating and.
But do they have programmable matter as their HUD, their heads-up display?
They got programmable.
It looks like they just have like when Book was typing on that one-handed keyboard. It was
you're right.
It was a digital thing.
Yeah, but those are their personal ones that are come out of their communicator pins
that are 900-year-old technology.
Yeah. Yes, but it's not entirely.
We
consistent.
were in the golden age of science back then, though. Remember, it froze after that for a while. If we recall some Discovery lore.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay,
and we do recall it.
We do recall.
It has been recalled.
So yeah, we were talking about screens. Oh yeah, you were talking about the Tuvok and the Easter eggs on the screens.
And there's meta Easter eggs too, like the Magistrate, also President 7 of 9's husband,
who seemed really insecure about it the whole time.
Yeah, well he was played by Jojo Briones.
I've seen him and stuff.
He's the father of Issa Briones, who plays Soji and Daj, etc.
But I've seen him and stuff.
Yeah, he's an actor.
Have you
Well, no, I
seen
mean,
him?
I'm saying he's... Yeah, I haven't seen...
No, he's her father. He's an actor. He's her father. He's an actor.
No, I'm saying... Okay, like, I'm saying
I'm your father and an actor.
Do you recognize every person you see on the television, on the TV, or at the cinema?
Yes, every day.
I'm just saying I've seen him a lot before.
I think you asked that question sarcastically.
I didn't. Well, I know. I asked that question more rhetorically. Look.
I'm a walking encyclopedia.
I'm just saying, you said it was a ridiculous thing to say. I was like, I've seen him somewhere. And you're like, he's an actor. And I was like, I've seen him somewhere familiar.
He's on television.
He's a television
I know.
actor.
And I'm saying I recognize him because I recognize him from somewhere. And I think that's remarkable.
I think you're both right.
I also think it's remarkable. The other thing I think is remarkable is the excellent way in which they brought all the characters back together. almost all the characters.
Except
Almost all the characters, right? So we get to see, of course, Picard is the main opening. Then we see Seven waking up and discovering that A, she's not a Borg, recovering Borg anymore, and B, she's the president of the Fascist Confederation.
is it better to call her Seven or Annika now?
I would call her Seven because that's who she is,
who she
even though
is.
she's also Annika Hansen. But in this fascist world, she's just Annika Hansen. Write in at feedback at
That's a fascist
discussstartrek.com.
name.
Seven shot Annika.
So we see
Annika.
that. We also see Girardi. You know, she appears in this lab and she's like, "What the fuck's going on?" She starts talking to a cat. Elnor is fucking freedom fighter watching buildings collapse in
they're taking out buildings.
what is stated to be
Okinawa.
Yeah, that wasn't your Mr. Miyagi's Okinawa, I'll tell you that much.
No, it looks more like Hong Kong, honestly, but I don't know enough about the geography of either of those places to.
All I just remember is from the
Like, very
Karate Kid
zen.
Part 2, watching
But that was an
Okinawa
exciting
doing-
scene, and of course, that scene is that also gets us Rafi back as well. And she does that cool. They do that whole cool business to get back together. But here's the important thing. Elnor and Rafi.
Yeah, they're a pair. They're a duo. They're
And
buddy
where,
comedy.
and where were they located when the USS Stargazer auto-destructed? Where were they located?
Somewhere else.
And where was that?
They said that was like the Excelsior.
That's right. They were on the USS Excelsior. So that introduces the idea, mark me, that introduces the idea, mark it, that
Marked.
that this is not the people we know just on the Stargazer. It's the Stargazer and the Excelsior. So that's already two different places where these particular people have been by Q or whatever other mechanism is causing this temporal change.
Q.
They've retained their original reality memories.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about Soji? Do you think she retained her memories? Because I do. I do. She's part of their crew. She's part of their people. She happens to be on
they just haven't
planet.
haven't found
She's
her
hanging
yet.
out with the Deltans, but I think maybe
Oh, those were Deltans.
they were Deltans. You said that last week too.
Oh man.
Yeah, you did actually say that. last
Okay,
week.
yeah, that was
You said the waveform will match precisely. You
That
said it
was the
exactly
one-
same way.
that was the one where I fell asleep. That's why I don't remember.
But
That was a blackout.
my theory, and
blackout.
I don't know that it's the case by any means. I have no level of confidence in this. But at the end of this episode, again, not to jump ahead, but at the end of this episode, we find our heroes on the La Serena, just about to make their escape. But then the magistrate beams aboard with a couple of brutish guards and starts firing. You know,
I don't know how
threatening them.
I don't know how I feel about it ending on that kind of cliffhanger. It's like, I mean, it doesn't really matter
It's
because
suspenseful, baby.
it doesn't change the story. It's just kind of like they could have ended with them getting away at least or something.
Yeah,
but-
I understand the need for a cliffhanger. It sucks that we have to.
I mean,
wait a week.
I know that serial TV more seems like is more. It's connected by definition, but there's still feels like sometimes there should be some beats that you
Isn't
can
it
end
enough
on.
that you get to watch 2 Star Trek episodes?
I'm just well, what?
I think Jesse's suggesting it might be exacerbated by the fact that we have to watch 2 episodes of
Yeah.
Star Trek in one day because it's 2 new episodes of Star Trek come out, and obviously you have to watch them both.
It's tricky
immediately.
when you make shows. You have to make it fit to the plot to fit to certain
Yeah.
beats. But it is nice when they end on a beat that sort of leaves you with some sense of resolution.
I don't disagree.
But this made more questions now. Is what's going to happen to Elnor and all that shit?
No,
Anyway,
last episode was a cliffhanger too, but maybe one more to your liking where Q appears and we're like, oh no, it's Q. What's going to happen?
Yeah, that was a cool cliffhanger.
This
That was
one,
better.
we know they're going to get out of this situation. And when you know that from a dramatic structure sense.
But you don't know if Elnor is going to die. He probably won't. But
Probably not, but you're right. That's but
Elnor was pretty tough,
They probably
though.
added
Yeah.
that in. It is a good point, Dan. They probably added that in order to kind of undergird a little bit more tension. But we don't know exactly how they're going to solve it. Now, it could be old-fashioned Star Trek way where they look at each other with their eyes and develop some secret plan and then do some cool moves.
Yeah.
That could be it.
Do some cool moves.
Probably not. The other option, as I alluded to, hinted at earlier, was that Soji has also somewhere else has realized that she is in the wrong timeline and starts figuring stuff out. And she's a synth, right? She's an android, so she's all about being clever.
She can go back in time herself.
And so maybe she shows up and saves the day because just in time, like they think they the magistrate thinks he's got him, but then Soji shows up and does some android robot action. that's possible. But we have another built-in solution here, another option, which is the Borg Queen, who is plugged into the ship. She was just plugged into the ship to aid in the control.
She's still plugged in.
She could use her tubes connected to the ship to reprogram the ship to do some zippy zappies or force field shit or vaporize people. So that's another perhaps more likely option.
Or she can make them, move out of there, and they'll have the those other people as their prisoners or whatever.
Did you move out of where?
Like fly around somewhere.
Yeah, fly around.
She can.
Oh, she'll take like the magistrate.
She will help them escape, and they'll have those people on their ship now, and they'll
like
just
the
they'll just be
magistrate
along for the ride. Yeah.
Do you notice that she seemed to be giving this like really smug look in the last part when they knew that as soon as she found out that she was going to get transported along with them, every time you looked at her she was kind of smiling.
She's
like
full of funny looks.
Yeah, it seemed like she had everybody in the palm of her hand. It's just like it's working exactly how I planned.
Right.
It seemed evil and sinister, but I don't know, it was just kind of like creepy.
I think that's just her nature.
Yeah,
I agree wholeheartedly. I was just thinking about that we haven't seen what happens to Soji.
That is a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
I'm presuming Soji comes back because she is sort of part of the core, whatever has been.
And I mean, they introduced her in the first episode. I mean, they not introduced, but they showed her. So it's like, why? I don't see. She was such a integral.
She was pretty much the whole point of the first.
She played the titular role.
She was the fucking fulcrum.
She was the pivotal fulcrum.
The titular role.
She was the fulcrum around which the plot pivoted.
So Elnor and Raffi had this weird buddy comedy thing going on.
They always that's an extension from the previous season where Raffi's almost like a mom figure to Elnor.
And yeah, because there was two exchanges. One when Picard goes, but this morning, even for Q, he seemed unstable, not quite sane. And then Raffi's like, oh, that's great news. And Elnor's like, not really great news, Raffi. It's like, Raffi.
It's because of that absolute candor.
Yeah, well, right.
He doesn't get that sarcasm.
And so the next one was Raffi goes, oh, wait, how are we supposed to Borg nap? I like Borg nap.
Yes, I like that as well.
The Queen and get away in front of thousands of witnesses. And Elnor's like, a smart strategic question, Raffi, And so what they've done is Elnor's kind of turned into this spin on your stereotypical sort of like tough meat-headed soldier guy, except he's not dumb and like he's not a dumb meathead. The reason he acts like that in that same role is because, like you said, he's got
the liar disease.
He's full of candor.
He's not really afraid of anything, and he's totally enthusiastic about like just doing like whatever. He's up for it. He's just up for whatever.
He's a puppy. He's literally a puppy.
He's like a puppy.
He's naive but not stupid. He's highly skilled. Very friendly, very happy all the time. But then when he has to like fight somebody, he tears their throats out.
That always like shocks me a little bit every time that
he teared out two dudes' throats.
Well, didn't he use the
communicator?
By the way, you were right. I didn't notice it so much, but those badges were really big. You pointed that out last
and they were
like
they're throwing stars. They're throwing stars.
Yeah, and he used it as a blade to slice someone's throat.
That scene was
shit always takes me off guard.
Why didn't they think of that?
That was so well choreographed and so well set up. Where he, even if you can kind of predict where it was going, where he's just getting beat up by these guards as a distraction, and then when the distraction is no longer needed, despite being bound, he kicks their asses. He dodges. Like they throw a throwing star communicator badge at him. He dodges, gets lodged in the other guy's shoulder.
When did those things get that sharp? I didn't know were they supposed to double?
No, this is the fascist world. That's why
it's not the mirror universe. It's just the fascist world,
world,
which is not as bad as the mirror universe, probably.
I don't know.
It's
it seems
the
kind of
actual
worse.
universe that's been changed.
Yeah, the mirror universe was a little bit more theatrical and fun. These guys,
I guess you're right.
These guys' theatrics.
They were having a good time.
Yeah, as you noted, the theatrics they display in this world is a theatrics based off of insecurity and fear, which I guess is true to some degree in the mirror universe. But I don't know, it seems a little bit more fun.
Yeah,
it was totally fun.
So, well, anyways, all I was trying to say about Elnor is I like that instead of you can pose as like a big dumb innocent goofy guy, right? But that's not what Elnor is. Elnor appears like that way because of candor, and it's the whole candor thing.
Absolute
and
candor.
So there's just something, I don't know, it's like a nice spin on the same old kind of archetype or whatever. Archetype.
I agree.
So.
I agree. I also agree, even though nobody suggested it, I do agree that we should take another brief break, and when we return, we will continue this discussion. We'll close out this discussion.
Post haste.
Close out the podcast.
That's capital.
Be right back. Alrighty, folks. It's time to come back.
Now we're back.
Time to get things started back
We're
up.
gonna talk like this.
Rio gave one of those generic lines when they were talking about you gotta warp up the Borg Queen.
Real quick for new listeners.
If you're tuning in just now,
if you're one of our fresh listeners who's just tuning in because you're like, oh, we're watching Star Trek Picard and we really want to hear what these people say about Star Trek Picard. If you're one of those people.
So you started like halfway through the podcast.
You should know that Dan has a particular grievance with certain overly generic plot points, phrases, quotes. These are grievances that I think many of us share, but he's quite passionate about it.
He has opinions.
Quite passionate. So you'll hear about it a lot because you're already hooked on the podcast. We can tell you're listening up to this point. You're already hooked on it. You're going to keep listening. So this is going to come up frequently.
I'm passionate but reasonable. I'm stern but fair. Because like I recognize
these are self-ascribed positions.
I recognize that a lot of shows engage in these kinds of lines, but it doesn't make the show bad. It's just I wish they would try a little harder on those lines. It would make me feel a little happier. But 7 of 9 goes 5 to beam up plus the Borg Queen, and then Rios pulls the I'm sorry, for a moment there it sounded like you said Borg Queen. Like how many times have we heard that, right?
Right.
I know. You know what I'm saying?
It's like, come on.
It's like you could have thought of a different way to write that, but it's fine.
You could have thrown in one of his hollow guys.
I think if I just mention it enough, that it'll change over time, and that's how real change happens. Slow and steady wins the race. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Sort of.
I
agree.
Sort of.
Yeah. So Quat Malat, I didn't know they were called the Final Stranglers.
I think she made that one. Right?
Yeah, she might have. That's what they're referred to as in the North or the Northern Territories or something. There was a lot in this. The music was really good. So, 2 points about the music. The sinister versions of the Picard theme, not the TNG theme, the Picard theme. They had these sinister horn bass. They almost sounded like James Bond music or something, like really, really cool variations, and a variety of variations on the Picard theme. They had the Borg Queen theme. They had brief hints of the First Contact theme a couple times. Really good music stuff. And I went back, last week I was talking about how, I still wasn't totally in love with the theme music.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back and I listened to it real careful, like paying super close attention. Just trying to let it wash over me. Just trying to get that music into my bones.
Did you?
And
okay, I was hoping you were going somewhere else.
No, I just said I'm coming to respect it more. I never disliked it. In the first season, I enjoyed. I saw what they were going, the pastoral thing, and I was like, okay, but it never quite got me going. It still doesn't generate that kind of vibration in my heart bone. Mm-hmm. But intellectually, like
does it tickle your fancy? It does not tickle your fancy.
It tickles my intellectual fancy because when you listen to it careful, like when you listen to it with headphones,
with all careful, like
which part of him is the fancy?
Listen to it with headphones on, and listen to it super careful, like. And it's layered, it's complex, it's intricate. There's a lot of stuff going on in the opening theme. Still doesn't make me feel like, like the DS9 or TNG or Voyager theme or something. It doesn't even make me feel like, the Enterprise theme gives me a reaction, and that reaction can vary. But like,
what about Discovery theme?
I love the Discovery theme. I've always loved it, and I like the architectural.
Voyager has a good theme.
Voyager. All of them.
Voyager's opening is pretty.
That's the best thing about it.
Your mileage will vary.
It's interesting that the choice they gave, that one scene where 7 had to choose the different ways of stating the same point. When the magistrate was like, it was something about merciful. It was as Eradication Day will forever serve as a reminder of humanity's universal might or its merciful power. And that was what the magistrate was basically saying to Annika, is like, which do you want to go with?
They were doing a West Wing style speech change last minute question.
And it's interesting how you can, because if you show them merciful power, it gives people the feeling like they're justified in what they're doing. But if you go the direction of, superpower, it'll make people feel like winners. So either line is good, right? I understand that that's the point they're making, but it's just interesting how you can pick either line, but you slightly they have slightly different meanings. One means, we're justified and moral. The other means, well, we're just powerful and winners, but both mean like we're awesome people. So yeah, I don't know. It's speech writing seems like a weird sort of like procedural kind of like put together like these Lego blocks of words and phrases to like sort of make people feel things.
Well, there was a couple other things associated with his Eradication Day, because there was all that talk of the speech stuff and really good character building and flavor. We learn a lot about this magistrate fella in this very short amount of time that we meet him. Very interesting stuff. The concept of Eradication Day is itself ridiculous. And that cat, the Spot 73, is talking about that. He's giving a little like talk about how like this is brutal and ridiculous. He's like, the population is already under your control. It's kind of extra mean to do this for no particular reason. But there were a couple other things that jumped out. First of all, when they show the Golden Gate Bridge and they first show San Francisco, fascist San Francisco, and you hear the announcer being all like, welcome to Eradication Day. And it's like sort of Starship Troopers style. I forget exactly what the cadence was, but it reminded me of that Starship Troopers propaganda style Eradication Day, where humans prove that they're the best. Kind of.
Oh, that's like the same director who did RoboCop, I think. I think that was the deal.
Yes, I believe you're correct.
But yeah, they both have that same kind of satirical. Oh, like really satirical,
so
violent.
Satirical that a lot of people watched it incorrectly.
Yeah, right.
I think that's true of a lot of Paul Verhoeven.
That's who I was thinking of, Verhoeven. Yeah. It did seem a little over the top.
And the other thing about the Eradication Day that jumped out at me was how strongly it echoed. It didn't mimic, but it echoed the scenes from Encounter at Farpoint with Q. As the judge and those shouting people, those crowds of people all shouting and yelling. The stage setup, the crowd, of course, was a little different, and it was just everything was arranged a little bit differently. But there were strong echoes of that, and I can't imagine that wasn't purposeful, given the association with Q and that particular situation.
Man. Picard's laser gun look different than
his phaser.
His it's more like a zapper gun.
Laser.
Maybe it's like a disruptor.
Well, it's
Klingon disruptor.
I was going to compare it to Book's phaser blaster thing that he had. Like Book had, if you ever remember, there was this thing called Phaser, which was like a light gun game. It was called Phaser or something. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jesse?
No, sir.
No?
I don't either.
No, it's called Photon. That's what it was called.
That's why we didn't know.
It was called Photon Laser
Still don't know what
Tag.
the hell
You're talking about Hungry Hippos?
No, Photon Laser Tag. It was laser tag, but they had these awesome heavy plastic guns, and that's what Books looked like, but Picard looked like a little zapper. They have all these different kinds of zappers in the future,
Yeah, they do, and they mostly look like guns. And some people criticize that.
Which is the movies that had them? Was it First Contact where they had those rifle phasers?
They had phaser rifles on on Voyager and Deep Space Nine.
They had phaser rifles on the Cave.
I don't know. First Contact, maybe that's around the time. I don't know. They had them before that. I think they had them before that. I don't know.
So another I liked this one. This one was a generic line obfuscated with more complex words. So when
I'm fascinated to hear how this works.
When magistrate, they're talking about the speech, and the magistrate's like, "You seem preoccupied with me, dear." He says "dear" too many times. He's really
really trying to stress that they're married.
Yeah,
like as you suggested, maybe it's an insecurity.
Yeah, but at first I was just wondering. It's like, oh, maybe that's just how he talks to her. But yeah, I guess it became pretty clear. Okay, so he goes, "You seem preoccupied with me rather than your duties," and then 7 goes, "Explain what we're doing and why today is so special, and maybe then you can convince me that you're focused on the right priorities."
That old classic trick when you're impersonating somebody. You're impersonating someone's wife and you have to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, right. And basically saying like, "Oh, I know what it means. Do you know what it means?
Can you show me what it means? Because otherwise I think you're stupid."
Yeah, because this is a test. It was a total play on that whole thing. But
totally worked.
It worked. It was
that's marriage.
See, but
that's how marriage works.
But yeah, see, what I liked about it is there was some effort put into that line to not make it just so you can express the same thought, but just put some different words around, and it's cool again.
I'm in 100% alignment with your perspective.
Cooligan.
100% alignment.
100%.
Yeah. So Q references another. We're talking about odds and ends at this point, I think, right?
I suppose we
all
are.
The bits and pieces, all the other stuff after we've made our key important points. If you want to ditch out here, that's fine. You'll miss some cleverness, but if you want to ditch out here, any highly relevant points I think have already been made. But you never know. Sometimes we forgot one, and we'll add it in later. So
they say the Borg Queen. They get the Borg Queen to say like that. The change in the timeline happens in 2024.
Yeah. And she's like, where's the where?
On Earth.
Los Angeles.
In LA, and there's somebody there. Is it Guinan?
So
I don't know. It's probably, I don't know. Some people have suggested that, but she's a listener, not a watcher.
So that's that whole scene. First of all, when the Queen's going,
and she's on The View, so I don't know.
When
yeah, that's right. It could be just Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, she got in trouble for something she said on The View.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. So when that whole scene, when Picard asks her about that, and she goes, she's calculating the where and when of the location. Now, first of all, why would she be calculating then? Don't you think she would have already done those calculations? She had a lot of time to spend alone, locked up in that Girardi cage. So you'd think she would have made those calculations.
I think we're meant to understand that she doesn't understand that it's that whole like difficulty with time travel, where like she's not aware of it until it happens. And so Picard meets up with her within a few hours of waking up in this new time. Yeah. All of them get to the Borg Queen pretty quick. So I think it's a recent occurrence. Maybe that's why she's all twitchy coming out of the box.
Well, okay. This is actually a tangent on that. What was Seven saying about to how the Borg, when we first introduced to the Borg Queen, she's saying, oh yeah, the Borg Queen has this temporal awareness or connection or something. Is that new? Is that new lore? Have they ever mentioned that before? I honestly
can't remember. I kind of don't think it is, though.
You don't think it's new, or
no, it might be new, but I don't know. When she said that, it sounded something old. It sounded like some typical
sort of like
some
believable
Borg lore.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe it's just highly believable given what we know.
It's like, I mean, it is like, why not? You know,
and there's been time travel stuff with the Borg before, with First Contact, and
because the Borg already like travel all funny, like there's like those tunnels and space time.
They had a subspace rift or whatever,
transwarp conduits.
They should have stopped by that planet with the science, the sturdy sci-fi serial movie,
the sturdy sci-fi, the 30s. Oh, Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, is that the one with the people on that one Star Trek?
What are you talking about?
You know that Voyager episode where they go to the Zap planet with the zappy space guns?
Oh, yeah, kind of. Yeah. You're talking about Captain Proton.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Captain Proton.
Yeah.
The fake. Okay, this is very multi-layered and complicated.
Okay, so back at the ranch, the other part after so that calculation.
Rancho Picard.
So I get the calculation thing. Okay, so she doesn't know what's happening yet, even though she has this temporal awareness. She just doesn't know enough to make that calculation. But then she is able to say that she's trying to calculate when this temporal separation happened, right? And so she's like going, calculating, working. And so all she's able to calculate is that they should seek the Watcher. And she calculates where they need to find the Watcher and when and where to find the Watcher. So she can do that, but she can't find the temporal split. It seems like the plot got waved a little bit right there, because how is she able to pinpoint this location of this random person that knows information about a temporal split?
And presumably the date she has is more accurate than simply 2024, because otherwise the next 3 episodes will be just them hanging out, waiting.
They
have to get jobs.
Like in River Creek in the Vulcan episode with the
Carbon Creek, River Creek. That would be crazy.
So
that makes no sense.
So why is she able to suddenly pinpoint this Watcher, but she can't pinpoint the temporal split? You know what I'm saying?
Well, she did pinpoint the temporal split.
No, she didn't, because if she did, they would just go back to then. Why are they going to this Watcher then? They need this Watcher to tell them about.
I'm confused. They're the same thing. She said the Watcher's in 2024. That's what she said. She said, go back to 2024, and there is a Watcher there. There is somebody in LA in 2024.
But it's a clue. It's not a full, like, this is the answer. It's like, it's a breadcrumb.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
You're
saying
she's
that
she
doesn't know exactly. I get, yeah.
She's being an oracle.
That's just because it's a fucking TV show.
Yeah, right. It felt a little waved away.
I mean, it would be funny if she was like, oh yeah, it was exactly this occurrence. This is exactly what happened. You have to go back.
Right.
You have to, the Bell riots went off in San Francisco. They spread to LA, and You got to do this one. You got to go to the 7-Eleven or what do they have out there? You know, like the
they got 7-Eleven.
They got Wally Wares.
Wally World.
Wawa's. Wawa water.
Park's closed. Moose out front should have told you.
They don't have Wawas.
In Oklahoma, they don't. They're what are we? Taquitos in Oklahoma, they're called tornadoes, which I think is kind of offensive, actually, considering their history. But that's what they call them. Maybe they take it as pride. I don't know.
Taquito.
Yeah, right. So yeah, they're leading them along and whatever. But yeah, I guess she's like the oracle. It's about the journey or something. I don't know. This doesn't seem like
it's a fantasy
convenient
kind of thing.
plot
because they don't really need to go on a journey. The only one who needs to self-discover is Picard. Really,
Picard needs to fall in love.
Yeah, Picard needs to fall in love
and make a baby
with the Borg Queen.
Well, so a couple other things that I thought were great in this, that these things work. Like, yes, the Borg Queen in this sense is a MacGuffin.
Yes,
but
that's the word I was looking for.
But she's a MacGuffin that works because of just the existing lore of the Borg and the Borg Queen,
Borg lore,
and the Borg lore, the classic Borg lore, and
Borg lore.
Note that she refers to Captain Picard or Admiral Picard as Locutus, whereas the other Borg Queen, the other quote-unquote Borg Queen, referred to him as Picard, which was weird. The other Borg Queen had a cloak,
cute.
And it was whoever it was. It might still be a Borg Queen. It might be a future Borg Queen or whatever the deal is. That was unusual. This Borg Queen is more standard, more typical, as Seven said, because she referred to Picard as Locutus.
This
so that
Borg
makes sense.
Queen's all right.
When Picard
right.
has to pretend to shoot her, you can see on his face that he kind of really wants to shoot her.
Yeah, but she's still all smug and smiling.
He's all nervous because when his face when 7 of 9 when 7 says the Borg Queen told us this, and Picard's like, the fucking Borg Queen's here. He looked like, oh shit, I wasn't prepared to deal with this.
Resistance is negotiable.
Maybe
that whole
Did you say resistance is negotiable? Is that why she all? But is that why she all looked at him with that sort of smug look? It's like, I know you want to kill me.
Yeah, I think so. I think she's like, I know you can't because you need
just
me.
really smug.
There was a great subtle line from Jerry Ryan when she's reading her speech and she's talking about like how these things, won't get you anywhere. And one of the things she lists is resistance. She sort of pauses,
right.
She's like,
yeah,
resistance. She's like, this is awkward. I used to say resistance is futile all the time, and there's the Borg Queen right there. Awkward.
Yeah, I did notice that as well.
We didn't get to talk a lot about Rios, but he was just normal, awesome Rios.
He's got like a really perfect face.
He's got a great face, and his beard is all scraggly and cute, and he's all confused, but handles himself pretty well.
Yeah, it was when him and Girardi were having that little spat. That was fun.
Good banter.
Yeah, it's good banter.
Good back and forth banter. I liked when the Borg Queen was being carted around by Girardi and they had to go down the steps and it was all awkward. It was like when the Borg Queen hovers thing like went to the next level. It kind of went like for a moment. And it was the similar type of awkwardness as when you're taking a cart down a couple, like one or two stairs, like a pull cart. And it's not that there's a problem. It's not going to fall over, but it's still like a little, it's a little weird. Same thing happened when Girardi pushes the Borg Queen down a couple stairs. Yeah.
When the Queen called Girardi a fragile teacup, that was she's saying you're accustomed to this feeling anywhere of unbelonging or whatever. So I wasn't quite sure.
And the Borg Queen thinks she's the teapot, and she's going to fill that teacup up with all sorts of wisdom and confidence.
Or she's going to fill her up full of Borg assimilation.
Yeah, could be filling her up with nanites.
So nanites, metachlorians. I don't know. So I don't know exactly what point they were trying to make with that, but I guess it is true that Seven like sort of creates her own fate, and then maybe Girardi's more like Bobby Hill in that she's this blob with no will, but like also can't be hurt.
That's my purse.
Like in that episode,
I don't know you.
Where Bobby Hill is put into the hot box for 3 days, and he comes out, he's like, "Hey, Dad," "Hey, Dad."
He's like sleeping in there.
Yeah,
he lasted one more day than Cotton Hill. Than his grandfather. In the same scenario.
This idea, if you just sort of get used to shitty things and just sort of doing nothing and adapting to shitty things, nothing can really hurt you.
So you think that's Girardi's situation?
Yeah, but she called her a fragile teacup, which doesn't make sense. Why is she fragile? It seems
she's a murderer.
Also so's the Borg Queen, and she's trying to manipulate and get her way, and we'll see.
Fragile teacup, unbelonging. I don't know. I didn't quite make the connection of what was going on there. The only techno.
She was trying to mess with her.
There was only one real techno babble I heard, and that was when they were talking about time travel. It says Picard goes, there are cruder methods of time travel: a star's gravitational pull, a slingshot maneuver at warp to generate a temporal fissure. Kirk's Enterprise did it on more than one occasion, and then
did it in what? Tomorrow is yesterday. What was the other one?
Tomorrow's yesterday is next
4.
week. And then
Star Trek 4, they do that.
Yeah, and so that was a nice little history.
There's one other.
Stuff happened.
There's one other. Let that be your last battlefield, maybe? I can't remember. There's another TOS episode.
He's got
They do
countless
it twice on
temporal violations.
But yeah, so that was a recounting of history. But the technobabble came with Girardi's response when she said, "But for that, you needed intelligence that can isolate the divergence and microshift for any chronotonic radiation."
You speak the truth, brother.
And as far as technobabble goes, that's not too intense. But that was all that there was.
Yeah.
So, which is not a good or bad thing. It's just a thing.
And as she said, they had Spock. He had to calculate all that stuff on the fly.
Chronotonic.
Chronotonic.
That shit is the chronotonic.
Another thing, of course, is a subtle. It's not that subtle, I guess. They had that statue of Adam Soong in the hollow statue in San Francisco Bay in the fascist
Is
world.
that what that was?
Yeah, so, Brent Spiner, that character, or some variation on a Soong character is going to come up soon, whether it's in the fascist future or in the past. I don't know. We'll find out soon. The other thing that jumped out at me was Martok, when he's talking about Picard defeating Martok in battle, and how the Klingons had been decimated by a bioengineered virus, which was evocative of what the Klingons kind of were suspicious about the humans doing back in that Enterprise Augment storyline that involves some Klingon human flu virus and stuff like that. So very subtle.
Wasn't there some stuff
reference.
in Discovery where they almost killed off the Klingons?
There's various things that have come up.
Patrick, didn't you mention something about General O'Brien? Did you say General O'Brien?
Yeah, Miles O'Brien. He was a field officer in the Dominion War. That was another thing that showed up on one of the screens.
Does he have an eye patch like Falcon?
That'd be kind of awesome. But
so, I mean, do you think they're going to pursue this sort of idea of this whole weird evil conquest world and the moral implications of all that and what causes that? Or do you think it's more just going to be a personal Picard, or are they just going to get chased and chase after things?
I don't know if it could be next episode. We're already back in time in 2020. At some point, we're going to go to 2024, right? We know that much. So
but that'll happen probably. It could happen at the end of the season.
It could, but I don't think so, because
we've seen pictures
in the previews. They show them.
shots.
They show like Jerry Ryan driving a car.
Oh, really? I didn't.
Somebody's jumping from car to car.
I never watched any of.
You've never seen a single preview in your life?
Not for Star Trek Picard.
Come on.
We'll just say it's not.
Okay.
I count it as non-spoiler just because it was
No, I mean
all
it's in
the
a preview.
material.
That's fine. No, I'm not. I'm not.
And they've already said, okay, go back to 2024. I don't know if it's next episode. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if we're gonna hang out in this future world for a little bit and then go to 2024.
And that would be why the Borg Queen would say, "Oh, don't find the temporal place. Find the Watcher." And from the Watcher, you find this and that and that. And so they can just take this. That's kind of what Discovery has done, is they've taken one destination and they've spent the whole season getting to that destination. And now if Picard, they jumped around more, that would be pretty interesting.
And I will say that my interpretation of what the Borg Queen says, which may have been mistaken, was that she was saying the Watcher is in 2024. So step one is go to 2024. Step two is find the Watcher. You talk to the Watcher will be like, hey, I saw this shady shit happen. That's not right.
I think I missed that.
And it could be Guinan, because we know there is that in yesterday's Enterprise, which was referenced in this episode by Q. Guinan is the one character, or the main character, who feels something's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we know that the Elorians, like Guinan, are capable of that. So it could be Guinan, could be somebody else, could be Soran, who knows? We haven't met many Elorians. So, but anyway, so that's I guess that's the direction we're going. But we just don't know when. So they have to escape from the magistrate. So let's see how that happens. Is it the Borg Queen? Will it happen in the teaser, and it'll be concluded, and then the story will move on? Will it be a whole plot point? Who knows? We'll see.
The first season was a lot of just sort of get from point A to point B, right? Wasn't that basically?
Yeah, I mean, in a serialized spaceship show,
it's like a fetch quest.
That's kind of common. how it comes across and how artificial it seems, it depends. So we'll have to see. But so far, so good. This was an entertaining, exciting episode. It opens up a lot of ideas for where things could go. Maybe it won't be resolved in a pleasant way. We'll see. We'll see. But hopefully...
When you say not in a pleasant way, do you mean meta not pleasant, as in it makes me upset they did it this way? Or yeah, or it's just everything's miserable afterwards?
I'll say we don't know exactly whether it's going to be resolved in an awesome way that everyone's happy about, or if people, similar to last season, start to say, I will say I'm right now cautiously confident about which direction things are going.
Cautiously confident when the direction it's going. What is the direction that it's going?
Any other odds and ends, or shall we shut things down?
Shut it up!
Dan has closed down his laptop.
Shut it up or
Jesse
shut it
has
down.
closed his moleskin notebook.
Lock and load, moleskin.
That means we're
I
ready.
thought it was some kind of
Moleskin.
zebra skin. I thought you had some kind of zebra rhino skin.
No, that's
Too
offensive,
leathery.
baby.
It's
Too
offensive.
leathery.
You have tardigrade or you have Gormagander skin.
Garmagander.
Jesse skinned 1 million tardigrades.
Yeah,
in order to-
that'd be badass.
that would be pretty wild. They're linked together like chainmail. It's a living book cover.
Chainmail.
Living Booker cover.
Booker, yes, Cleveland.
He's got to
Booker.
put a Dom Jot table in his bridge or something. That's a big empty space
It
in
is.
there.
There's so much room in
It
there.
Yeah.
is. It's not well utilized.
You
It's
can have
beautiful,
like
but not
a
well
you
utilized.
can have like a dinner party in there.
Serious shit.
Anyway, if you're curious about what we're talking about Star Trek Discovery, which we also covered this week because we did 2 podcasts for you. And this is the second of those 2.
Don't listen to this episode.
If you want to listen to that Discovery one, it's episode 120. This is episode 121, Picard. Next week, same deal. Then that's it. Then we can finally go back to just
I
doing
think it's just Picard.
just one episode after that for a while.
I think we were a little more relaxed this week. Though.
Yeah, Paramount Plus. We don't need this overlapping business. I think it detracts from both shows. No, I'm not one to say too much Star Trek. It's kind of cool. On the other hand, I don't know. From a professional podcaster perspective, it's fucking stressful as shit.
Yeah, it is.
However, we don't want to bite the hand that feeds us.
Feeds us.
This delicious, honestly.
We do like your products.
Delicious Star Trek. So that'll do it for us this week. You can get us on Twitter at It's Got Star Trek.
That'll do us. That'll do us. Cockadoodle.
Instagram at It's Got Star Trek.
Cockadoodle. That'll do us.
We're on YouTube at It's
Cock-a-doodle
Got Star Trek.
Cockadoodle. That'll do us.
Facebook.
Patrick, cockadoodle. That'll do us.
The website is www.itsgotstartrek.com.
It's not going to stop.
Hey, Jesse.
Feedback at itsgotstartrek.com.
Cockadoodle. That'll do us.
You can rate and review at Apple
Cockle did it.
Podcasts or Google Podcasts
That
or
does it.
Spotify or Amazon Podcasts, or you can download the RSS feed. You can go to Podcast Addict or Pod Boobops or
Podcast.
Boobops.
Podcast.
and you can do all that. Otherwise, that'll do it for us this week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Smell you later.
Next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cockadoodle what now?
That'll do us. Cockadoodle. That'll do us.
That'll do us.
Dare you even suggest?
You know, but this was all my fault, Mr. First Husband, sir. The Borg Queen was claiming that Romulans had infiltrated the palace with spies from a little-known sect called the Kawat Malat, or Final Stranglers, as they were known in the North. And I postulated it wasn't true, but I didn't have any proof until I saw that Picard had apprehended a Romulan. So out of an abundance of caution, I sent a coded message to my old drinking pal, the President, a.k.a. Annika Seven-Shot. It's a funny story. It's for another time. Wow. So that I could test my hypothesis, which we just did. There was a lot of screaming. Did you hear it? Anyway, it turns out the Queen was totally lying in a typical weaker-than-thou species bargaining for her life kind of strategy. And so she's off, going to be beheaded or whatever, and basically, as you were.